They didn't just try to steal her art collection. Worth millions, tens of millions, they systematically replaced every single masterpiece with sophisticated forgeries, painstakingly crafted fakes. Piece by piece, month after month, while she recovered from major surgery, a long, arduous recovery, in her own home, the place she felt safest, her own flesh and blood, orchestrating it all, her niece, someone she loved, I'm Victoria, and sometimes. The stories I hear, they don't just shock me, they shake me to my core. They force you to look at the darkness that can hide behind a familiar smile. They remind you how deep betrayal can cut, like a shard of glass to the heart, and how fierce the fight for justice, for survival, can become. Today's story, it's one of those unforgettable ones. It's about a woman named Agnes, not her real name. Of course, privacy is paramount here. Agnes is, brilliant. Truly exceptional, a respected art historian, world-renowned in certain circles, a passionate collector, driven by beauty not just value, someone whose eye for detail, for authenticity, was legendary. Curators consulted her, museums sought her opinion, but even legends can be vulnerable, tragically so, especially when trust is placed, wholeheartedly, completely, in the wrong hands. The story she shared with me, it's staggering. It's about violation on an intimate scale, calculation that chills the blood, and cold, hard, righteous revenge. You have to hear how Agnes, an expert deceived in her own sanctuary, turned the tables with stunning precision. Subscribe right now, seriously, you won't believe the details, the twists, the sheer audacity of it all. Hit that notification bell, because this is a masterclass in reclaiming power. Agnes asked me to share this, bravely, in her own words. As much as possible, feeling it was important, a warning, so now I'm going to let her voice, her experience, her quiet fury, take over. Listen closely, lean in, because this demands attention. My world, it wasn't just houses or bank accounts, stocks or bonds, it was beauty, tangible history, the soul of an artist captured on canvas, or in stone, or woven into tapestry. For 50 years, more than 50 years, I dedicated my life to it, learning, researching, teaching, curating, collecting, breathing it. Each piece in my home wasn't just an asset, a line item on an insurance policy. It was a conversation, across centuries, across cultures, a piece of my own heart, my own journey, reflected back at me. My first acquisition, a small unsigned sketch, bought with saved teaching money, still hangs in my study. It reminds me where it all began, the spark, my collection. Specialists called it museum quality. Invitations to loan pieces were constant. But to me, it was family, truly, the closest thing I had left, after my dear husband Robert passed, far too soon. He shared my passion. We built this collection together. Each piece held a memory of him, of us. My niece Clara, she was his sister's girl, much younger than me, practically a different generation. I watched her grow up, from scraped knees to college applications, tried to be there for her, a constant presence, especially after her own parents were gone. Unexpectedly, tragically, I felt a responsibility, a connection through Robert. She seemed attentive, caring, especially as I got older, navigating the complexities of agging alone, always asking about the collection, showing interest, remembering names, dates, styles. Aunt Agnes, tell me about the sergeant again. She'd ask, seemingly fascinated, or so I thought. I wanted to believe it was genuine interest, a shared passion finally blooming. Then came Julian, her boyfriend, introduced about 2 years before my surgery. Smooth, incredibly smooth, ambitious. An art dealer, though not one I recognized from reputable circles. His gallery seemed virtual, transient. He flattered me, excessively, praised my taste, my knowledge, quoted my own articles back to me. He remembered details I'd mentioned in passing months earlier, making me feel seen, understood. Looking back, the signs were there, tiny red flags fluttering in the breeze, little remarks, a constant, subtle pivot towards market value. Auction prices, investment potential, not enough focus on the artistry, the history, the soul of the work, questions about insurance, security systems, provenance documentation, cloaked in casual conversation. But I wanted to believe in Clara, wanted her to be happy. She seemed so taken with him, and honestly, I was getting tired. The constant demands of maintaining the collection, the house, it was becoming overwhelming. The prospect of major surgery. Hip replacement, complex due to my age, daunting, terrifying if I'm honest, a long recovery predicted. Months, maybe even a year before I was fully myself again. Clara insisted, immediately, vehemently, she and Julian would move in, temporarily, into the guest wing, to help manage things, the house, the staff, my appointments, my affairs, while I was incapacitated. "Don't worry about a single thing, Aunt Agnes," she'd said. Her voice like warm honey, her hand covering mine. "We'll handle everything, every little detail. You just focus on getting better, resting, healing." Julian echoed her. "Consider us your personal support team, Agnes, anything you need." I was grateful, profoundly relieved. The weight of worry seemed to lift. I saw it as familial duty, kindness, love. I trusted her, implicitly, completely, my biggest mistake. The most catastrophic misjudgment of my life. The surgery, technically, it was successful. The surgeons were pleased, but the recovery, harder, much harder than expected. Complications arose, infection risk, mobility challenges. I was confined upstairs, mostly bedridden for weeks, then confined to my suite for months, pain medication, strong doses, blurring the edges of reality, physiotherapy sessions leaving me exhausted, weeping sometimes, endless days blurring together. Marked only by meal trays and medication timings, Clara managed everything, meticulously, my appointments, rescheduling physio, handling my finances online, paying bills, controlling who came and went with unwavering efficiency. She was always nearby, a constant presence, bringing me meals, medication, adjusting my pillows, reading to me. Sometimes the medication seemed stronger than prescribed, the dosage timing slightly off, leaving me groggy. Confused, sleeping more than I felt I needed to, drifting off mid-sentence. "Just the effects of the anesthesia wearing off, Auntie," she'd say soothingly. "Or maybe the pain meds are a bit strong today, rest is best." Julian was off and out, handling business. Art logistics, he called it, attending viewings, meeting clients, always polite when he saw me, asking if I needed anything, but distant, preoccupied, always busy, never staying long. I rarely saw anyone else, my old friends, colleagues, former students. Clara said she was protecting my peace, keeping visitors away so I could rest without interruption. "Doctor's orders," she'd murmur. "Quiet is crucial for healing." She'd report brief, cheerful messages. "Elena sends her love, hopes you're resting." Mr. Davies called, wishes you a speedy recovery, making it seem like connection was maintained, while ensuring isolation, slowly, glacially. I started feeling a bit more like myself, moments of clarity piercing the fog. The pain lessened, the heavy sedation seemed to ease slightly. Perhaps Clara felt I was becoming less fragile. I started moving around the upper floor, leaning heavily on my cane, short, shuffling walks down the hallway, reclaiming small pieces of independence. One afternoon, late autumn sunlight streamed into the upper hallway, illuminating a small Degas sculpture, a bronze dancer. Poised exquisitely, one of my absolute favourites, a gift from Robert. Something felt off, subtly, indefinably wrong. The patina, the way the light caught the raised arm, the texture of the bronze beneath my fingertips. It wasn't quite right. The weight seemed slightly different as I instinctively braced my hand on its base. I reached out, touched the cool metal again, traced the lines, the texture, minutely coarser than I remembered. The signature seemed shallower. I dismissed it, quickly, firmly, post-surgery haze, my eyes playing tricks, lingering effects of the medication, paranoia born of helplessness. How could it be anything else? It was unthinkable. A few days later, allowed downstairs for a treat, leaning heavily on Clara's arm, a slow, careful procession. I glanced at the Monet, the water lilies, hanging in its usual spot in the drawing room. My heart always lifted seeing it. The interplay of light and water. Pure poetry, but the brushstrokes, usually so vibrant, so textured, seemed flat, lifeless, lacking the characteristic impasto I knew so well. The colours felt duller, less luminous. Again, I pushed the feeling away, fiercely, angrily almost, at myself, paranoia, weakness, grief perhaps playing tricks on my perception. That's what it had to be. Who would dare, in my own home, replace a Monet? Absurd, impossible. Then, one evening. Weeks later still, I was downstairs again, sitting by the fire. Clara was upstairs drawing my bath. Julian was out. I was watching the international news, something I rarely did anymore. Clara usually controlled the remote, preferring gentle documentaries or classic films. Less stressful for you, Auntie, she'd say. There was a segment, international art crime, a recent Interpol operation. They had recovered a stolen masterpiece, a rare Klimt landscape. Vibrant golds and greens, sold privately through an underground network based in Geneva. My blood ran cold, ice water flooding my veins. The painting they showed, briefly, a file photo, but unmistakably, it was mine, or it had asterisk been mine. It hung, or should asterisk have hung, in my private study, a room I hadn't been strong enough to reach since the surgery. I felt dizzy, sick, the room tilted slightly. It couldn't be a coincidence. A similar painting. No, I knew every brushstroke of that Klimt. I'd lectured on it, written about it. It was unique, irreplaceable. Suddenly, the Degas, the Monet, other pieces I hadn't seen clearly in months. The oddly flat Vermeer reproduction Clara had hung in my bedroom saying the original needed cleaning. The grogginess, the controlled access, Julian's constant art logistics. Clara's unwavering, suffocating presence. Her management of my medications. It crashed down on me, not a wave but a collapsing building, burying me in rubble. A horrifying, suffocating certainty. They weren't helping me, they weren't caring for me. They were robbing me, systematically, piece by precious piece, replacing my life's work, my husband's memory, my soul's reflection, with fakes. Excellent fakes, perhaps, but lies nonetheless, while I lay helpless, upstairs, sedated, isolated. Trusting them, loving Clara, the betrayal. It wasn't just financial, that was almost secondary. It was a violation of my home, my sanctuary, my legacy, my trust, my very identity as a scholar, a collector, a person. I felt, hollowed out, fragile, brittle like old parchment, trapped in my own house with the predators, who smiled at me, plumped my pillows, and stole my life. My first instinct, despair, overwhelming, crushing. A darkness deeper than the surgical recovery. How could Clara, my Robert's niece, the girl I'd mentored, supported, loved, how could they be so cruel, so calculating, so utterly devoid of conscience? Rage started to simmer, underneath the shock, the grief, a slow burn, deep in my belly, fueled by disbelief and a growing, sickening sense of violation. But what could I do? Weak, still unsteady, isolated, they controlled everything. My phone calls. My mail, my access to the outside world. I needed proof, undeniable proof, not just gut feelings about patinas and brushstrokes, and I needed strength, physical and mental, strength I wasn't sure I still possessed, the turning point, the moment the simmering rage ignited into a consuming fire. It came a few nights later. I couldn't sleep, the pain medication wearing off earlier than usual, or perhaps Clara had misjudged the dose. The horror of my realization kept me wide awake, heart pounding against my ribs. I heard voices, downstairs, in the main drawing room, louder than usual, careless, confident, Clara and Julian arguing, not a serious fight, more like a bickering negotiation. Carefully, painfully, ignoring the throbbing in my hip, I made my way out of bed, grasping the furniture for support, inching towards the top of the main staircase, hidden in the deep shadows of the landing. Listening, straining to hear every word. Sold the Renoir faster than expected, Julian was saying, his voice dripping with smug satisfaction. The contacts in Zurich loved it, paid top dollar, wired immediately. Good, Clara snapped back, a hard edge to her usually sweet tone. But we need to be careful. She's getting stronger, asking questions, wanting to come downstairs more often. Her eyes seem clearer. Relax, Julian scoffed, dismissively. She barely noticed the Degas swap months ago. Her eyes aren't what they used to be. She's old, Clara, and besides, a little extra calmative in her evening tea keeps her manageable. Foggy, my breath hitched, caught in my throat, the grogginess, the excessive sleeping. It wasn't just the pain meds, they were actively drugging me, controlling my awareness. What if she does notice? Clara pressed, her voice tight with anxiety now. What if she finds proof? What if she calls someone? Her lawyer, that nosy curator friend Bernard. Julian's voice turned colder, devoid of any warmth, chillingly practical. Then we accelerate the plan, get Dr. Adams to finalize his assessment, certify her cognitive decline, memory loss, paranoia. It's already documented from her confused episodes after surgery. Thanks to your careful notes. Dr. Adams, a neurologist they'd insisted I see. Citing my post-operative confusion, he'd seemed sympathetic but asked probing questions about my memory, my judgment. Clara had always been present, helping me answer. Power of attorney kicks in fully then, Julian continued calmly. Complete control, we can move her, maybe even arrange for specialized care, somewhere quiet, secure, where she can't interfere, permanently. They laughed, a short, sharp, ugly sound. Laughed. About stealing my treasures, drugging me, planning to have me declared incompetent, disposing of me, mocking my blindness, my trust, my age, my love for Clara. That laughter, echoing in the grand silence of my home, it was the spark, igniting the tinder of my rage. The despair vanished, vaporized, replaced by something else entirely. Ice, pure, cold, diamond-hard rage, fury like I'd never known, not hot and messy, but focused, precise, lethal. They thought I was weak, fadding, blind, confused, irrelevant. They had underestimated me, profoundly, catastrophically. They had mistaken age for irrelevance, vulnerability for stupidity, grief for weakness. They had attacked my legacy, my passion, my very being, my connection to Robert. Fine, game on. Can you imagine? Just pause and really absorb that, hearing that conversation, the sheer calculated cruelty, drugging her, methodically planning to strip her of everything, her art, her money, her home, her mind, her freedom. Stick with this, please, because Agnes's response, it's not just about getting even, it's meticulous, it's brilliant, and yes, it's absolutely brutal. She wasn't just going to get her art back. Oh no, that was only the beginning. She was going to dismantle them, professionally, personally, publicly, piece by piece, just like they had tried to dismantle her life. Hit that like button if you're already furious and ready for the payback. Let me know you're with Agnes on this. Okay, deep breath, back to Agnes, the moment everything changed, the moment the prey decided to become the hunter. The next morning, I was different, transformed, outwardly, still frail, perhaps even appearing a little more confused than before, playing the part they expected, needed, to perfection. I leaned more heavily on my cane, sometimes forgot names, asked repetitive questions. Inwardly, a strategist awakened, fueled by righteous fire, cold, hard fire. They wanted my art. They understood value, market prices, auctions. I would teach them about true value, and the crushing, inescapable cost of betrayal. My mind, the one they planned to have declared declining, was sharper than ever, hyper-focused, energized by the sheer monumental injustice, decades of art history, authentication knowledge, provenance research, contacts across the globe in museums, galleries, auction houses, law enforcement. That was my arsenal, formidable and underestimated. First step, documentation. Absolute irrefutable proof, beyond my own expert eye, proof that would stand up in court and in the court of public opinion. I needed my eyes back, my real eyes, expert eyes, objective eyes. I feigned a setback, increased confusion, complained dramatically about blurred vision, difficulty focusing, headaches. I begged Clara to call my ophthalmologist, Dr. Ramirez. It played right into their narrative. Poor Aunt Agnes, declining rapidly, losing her faculties. See, Julian, I told you she wasn't noticing anything, but the ophthalmologist, Dr. Ramirez, was an old friend, a trusted confidant for 30 years, discreet, sharp, utterly trustworthy. We'd served on a hospital board together. During the examination, Clara waited outside, impatiently scrolling on her phone, away from her hovering presence. I whispered the truth, briefly, urgently, the theft, the forgeries, the drugging, the plan. His eyes widened behind his ophthalmoscope, then narrowed with controlled anger. He understood immediately. The gravity, the danger. He adjusted my prescription minimally, just enough to seem plausible, but promised his unwavering help. Agnes, he said quietly, his hand resting reassuringly on my arm for a moment, we'll handle this. You are not alone. He arranged for a specialist consultation a few days later. Citing concerns about optic nerve pressure needing further investigation, at a private clinic across town, requiring a longer visit, more time away from Clara's watchful eye, there, in a quiet consulting room, ostensibly waiting for test results, away from prying ears, I made my calls, using a prepaid burner phone Dr. Ramirez had discreetly slipped me along with a portable charger. A lifeline, my first call, crucial, vital, to Bernard Dubois. No relation to Clara, thank God, my former curator protégé, brilliant, meticulous, now head of authentication at a major international museum in London, utterly discreet, fiercely loyal. I'd mentored him, championed him. He owed his career in part to my early support, and he knew it. I explained, quickly, concisely, the horror, the forgeries I suspected, the Klimt confirmed stolen, the systematic replacement, the sheer scale of the betrayal. He was appalled, speechless for a moment, then furious on my behalf, protective. Agnes, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger, professional calm overlaying personal outrage. This is monstrous, unthinkable. Whatever you need, my lab, my resources, my network, consider it done. We will expose them. Bernard became my secret weapon, my field marshal in this undeclared war. He knew exactly how to analyze, document, gather forensic evidence. Without raising suspicion, working remotely initially, the next phase required stealth, extreme caution. Inside my own home, my prison, I needed eyes and ears when I wasn't present, when they thought they were safe, unobserved, using the burner phone. During another medical appointment facilitated by Dr. Ramirez, I contacted a security firm, highly specialized, recommended by Bernard, experts in covert installations for high-stakes corporate espionage and sensitive domestic situations, ex-intelligence operatives, silent, invisible, expensive, but necessary. While Clara and Julian were out, attending a gallery opening Julian claimed was crucial for his business, a perfect alibi. The technicians arrived, 2 men, disguised as specialist pest control, investigating possible termite activity in the walls, a plausible excuse Clara herself had arranged after seeing a single dead insect weeks before. Oh, the irony, they swept the house, efficiently, silently, tiny cameras, pinhole lenses, microphones smaller than a fingernail, placed strategically, hidden in clock faces, smoke detectors, air vents, behind pictures in the study, the drawing room, the main hall, near the landline phone, even a tiny one in the kitchen near the tea kettle, suddenly, linked to a secure server Bernard helped set up. Accessible only via my burner phone with multi-factor authentication, I could see and hear everything, every smug conversation, every whispered negotiation, every clandestine deal Julian made on his phone, packing in the study, believing himself utterly alone, every time Clara refilled my special evening tea carafe, sometimes humming softly to herself, every argument, every planning session, the evidence mounted, sickeningly, beautifully, damningly, day by day. Hour by hour, they were bolder, more arrogant than I could have possibly imagined, drunk on their perceived success and my perceived weakness. Julian wasn't just selling the originals. He was using my name, my reputation, my provenance documents to broker deals, implying my consent, suggesting I was downsizing my collection due to age, tarnishing my legacy, my carefully built reputation for integrity. He bragged to Clara about fooling experts, about the quality of the forgeries he commissioned from workshops in Eastern Europe, mocking the buyers. Clara handled the logistics inside the house, swapping out smaller pieces when I was asleep or indisposed, carefully managing the household accounts online, siphoning funds, not just from my personal accounts, but from the charitable endowments I managed, funds meant for struggling young artists, for art education programs in underserved communities. That discovery hit hard, physically nauseating. Stealing from me was personal, a deep wound, but stealing from the future of art, exploiting the vulnerable I sought to help, that was vile, unforgivable, utterly contemptible. Bernard, working remotely with high-resolution images I secretly captured with the burner phone late at night, and comparing them to archival photographs, auction records, and his own extensive museum database. Began compiling forensic reports on each replaced piece, meticulously, methodically, infrared analysis revealing hidden signatures or modern underdrawings, pigment comparison using mass spectrometry showing anachronistic chemical compositions, microscopic examination of canvas weave and agging patterns, signature verification using digital overlays, radiographic imaging, each report, a nail in their coffin, scientifically proving the fakes beyond any doubt. Destroying Julian's claims of authenticity, Bernard also started tracing the sales, discreetly, patiently, using his network of trusted contacts, informants, tracking specific known underground dealers Julian mentioned in overheard conversations. Julian wasn't as clever as he thought. He used burner phones too, but his digital footprint, his methods, his choice of intermediaries, left a trail, faint, subtle, but traceable for someone with Bernard's expertise and resources. We identified buyers, shipping routes, shell corporations registered in Panama, numbered offshore accounts in the Caymans, the flow of money, the scope of their operation, audacious, extensive, sickening, involving multiple pieces, multiple buyers, millions of dollars changing hands. It took weeks, painstaking weeks, nearly 2 months of this double life. Playing the frail, confused, increasingly dependent aunt, while secretly gathering terabytes of encrypted data, watching them, listening to them, plotting, my mind working with a clarity I hadn't felt in years, fueled by adrenaline and cold fury. The rage never subsided, not for a moment. It just refined itself, sharpened itself, into cold, unwavering purpose. Legal action was essential. Prison was the goal, but it wasn't enough, not nearly enough. Prison wouldn't undo the damage to my reputation, wouldn't restore the soul of my collection, wouldn't adequately punish the sheer intimate cruelty of their betrayal, wouldn't satisfy the ice-cold fury in my heart. They used deception, manipulation, the art world itself, its trust networks, its value systems, as their weapons against me. I would use the same, but with devastating precision, surgical accuracy. The plan formed, piece by piece, intricate, ruthless, and deeply, satisfyingly public. I decided on the stage, my own home, this very house, the scene of their crimes, the place they felt most secure, most triumphant, the audience, the pillars of the art community, influential curators from major museums, respected gallery owners, powerful collectors, leading art critics, journalists specializing in art and finance, the very people whose opinions Julian craved, whose circle he desperately wanted to join. The event, a private viewing, an exclusive reception, supposedly to announce a major, long-planned donation from my collection to the National Museum, something plausible, something I'd discussed vaguely in the past, something that would guarantee attendance from exactly the right people. An irresistible lure. Clara and Julian would be hosts alongside me, front and center, preening, basking in reflected glory. Taking credit, no doubt, for facilitating this generous act, unaware they were walking into their own meticulously planned public execution. The preparation was meticulous, complex, requiring perfect timing and coordination. Bernard finalized his forensic reports, compiling everything into a stunning, damning visual presentation, evidence laid bare, irrefutable, scientific, cold. He arranged secure, remote access to the presentation server. Ready to play it on my command, the security team ensured the hidden cameras were optimally positioned. The audio feeds crystal clear, ready to be switched to a live feed display at the perfect moment. Another layer of reveal. I contacted my lawyer, Elena Vance, briefed her thoroughly over several encrypted video calls. She was horrified, professionally outraged, then grimly determined, fierce in her defense of me. She liaised discreetly with the district attorney's office and the police art crime unit, arranging for officers to be nearby, very nearby, ready to act immediately when I gave the prearranged signal. A specific phrase in my speech. I selected the date carefully, sent out the invitations, heavy cream cardstock, elegant calligraphy, formal, exclusive, irresistible to the art world elite. Each acceptance was a small victory. Clara and Julian were thrilled, ecstatic. Saw it as their grand entrance into the legitimate art world, the culmination of their efforts, proof of their success, their control over me and my legacy, validation. They fussed over details, catering, flowers, guest lists, and what to wear. Should Julian make a short speech too? Clara wondered aloud, completely oblivious, arrogant, walking deeper and deeper into the trap with every passing day. The night of the viewing arrived. Cool, crisp autumn air, clear skies. Perfect for an execution. My house, filled with the scent of lilies, a low murmur of conversation, clinking glasses, and palpable anticipation. The guests arrived, shedding coats, admiring the surroundings, murmurs of appreciation for the art, the famous collection they'd heard so much about, many seeing it for the first time. Unaware they were looking mostly at fakes, Clara glowed, radiant in a new designer dress, playing the devoted, capable niece to perfection. Managing the caterers, greeting guests warmly, subtly guiding them towards the most impressive pieces, the forgeries, Julian circulated, smooth, charming, confident, accepting compliments on his curation, dropping names, hinting at future acquisitions, soaking in the admiration he craved. I remained upstairs, conserving my strength, listening to the sounds drifting up, letting the tension build, allowing them their final moments of delusion. My nurse, a trusted agency professional vetted by Dr. Ramirez and aware of the general situation, monitored my vital signs, steady as a rock. Then, precisely on schedule, supported by the nurse on one side, leaning visibly on my elegant antique cane on the other, I made my entrance at the top of the main staircase, appearing frail, diminished, perhaps slightly overwhelmed by the crowd, but my eyes, sharp, missing nothing, scanning the room, noting who was present. Locking eyes briefly with Bernard, who stood discreetly near the tech setup at the back, giving him a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. A hush fell over the room as I began my slow descent. All eyes turned towards me. Clara rushed to the bottom of the stairs, her face a mask of solicitous concern. "Aunt Agnes, are you sure you're up to this? Perhaps you should sit. Let Julian and me handle the announcement." Concern dripping, falsely, sickeningly. "Perfectly fine, my dear," I replied, my voice clearer, stronger than it had been in months, resonating slightly in the suddenly quiet hall, startling her. Wouldn't miss this for the world. I allowed them to guide me, one on each side, a parody of support, to the small, subtly lit podium set up in the main drawing room, facing the assembled guests, Clara and Julian flanking me, beaming proudly, possessively. I took a breath, steadied myself. Looked out at the familiar and unfamiliar faces. The heart of the art world gathered in my home. I began to speak, my voice gaining strength with each word, thanking everyone for coming, sharing a brief, genuine anecdote about my late husband and our shared dream of building this collection, speaking of my lifelong passion, the importance of preserving artistic heritage, the responsibility of custodianship, laying the thematic groundwork. Then, my tone shifted, subtly at first. Gaining an edge. "Tonight," I said, my voice hardening slightly, "we are here to discuss legacy, authenticity, and the profound trust involved in the custodianship, the sacred trust, between collector, artist, history, and family." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. I saw a flicker of unease in Clara's eyes. Julian shifted his weight. I gestured towards a magnificent landscape hanging prominently on the main wall, supposedly a constable. A key piece in my collection, bathed in soft light. This piece, for example. My voice was steady, clear, commanding attention. Julian puffed up slightly, seizing the moment to interject smoothly, proprietarily. "One of her finest pieces, isn't it? A jewel, impeccable provenance, traced back directly." "Indeed," I said, cutting him off sharply, my voice hardening into steel. "Impeccably, fake." A collective gasp rippled through the room, stunned silence. Confusion, disbelief on every face. Julian's smile froze, then crumbled. Clara went white, utterly white, her hand flying instinctively to her throat. "Bernard," I called out, my voice ringing in the silence, gesturing towards a large, previously concealed screen mounted behind a decorative panel. If you please, Bernard, standing discreetly at the back by the audiovisual controls, dimmed the main lights further, and the screen flickered instantly to life, bright. Accusatory, side-by-side images appeared, crystal clear, high definition, the constable hanging in the room, and an archival image of the *real constable from a museum catalogue published decades ago, when it was last publicly exhibited before I acquired it. Bernard's voice, calm, authoritative, clinical, filled the room via a linked speakerphone connection from his lab in London, detailing the glaring inconsistencies. Pigment analysis showing titanium white not available in Constable's time, infrared reflectography showing a modern printed underdrawing, craquelure patterns inconsistent with natural agging, signature analysis showing hesitation, forgery, report after damning report flashed methodically on the screen, piece by piece, targeting the most prominent works Julian had been boasting about moments earlier. The Monet, fake, brushstroke analysis, chemical signature wrong. The Degas sculpture, fake, metallurgical analysis showed incorrect bronze composition, casting marks inconsistent with the known foundry, X-rays revealed modern internal structure. The Renoir, fake, replaced just weeks ago. Bernard showed date-stamped shipping manifests he'd uncovered, linked to Julian's Shell Corporation, alongside the pigment analysis. With each devastating revelation, Bernard provided irrefutable forensic proof, charts, graphs, microscopic images, spectral analysis, overwhelming, undeniable. The room was utterly silent, except for Bernard's measured voice and the occasional shocked gasp. Guests were staring, horrified, between the damning evidence on the screen, the artworks hanging innocently on my walls, and me, standing frail but resolute at the podium. Clara was trembling violently now, visibly shaking, clutching Julian's arm. Julian looked trapped, cornered. His face a mask of disbelief rapidly turning to sheer panic, sweat beading on his forehead, his eyes darting around like a cornered animal seeking escape. But, how? Someone murmured from the stunned crowd, a well-known gallery owner, his voice filled with confusion and dawning horror. How? I repeated, turning my gaze slowly, deliberately, directly onto Clara and Julian, my voice ringing with cold, controlled fury, amplified by the microphone. Perhaps they can explain. And then, the piece de resistance, the final turn of the screw. Bernard, the other feed, if you would. The screen changed instantly. No more charts, no more analysis. Now showing crystal clear video footage, date and time stamped, from the hidden cameras, inside this very house. Clear video, clear audio. Clara and Julian, standing in this very room, weeks ago, late at night, congratulating themselves after swapping out the Renoir. Laughing about my blindness, my confusion. Julian, packing in the study, on the phone with a disreputable dealer in Geneva, negotiating the final price for the stolen Klimt, explicitly using my name, claiming I'd authorized the sale privately. Clara, in the kitchen, carefully measuring drops from a small, unlabeled bottle into my evening tea carafe, telling Julian on her mobile this should keep her quiet and foggy for another day or two, buys us time. Clara and Julian, sitting on the sofa right over there, arguing quietly but intensely about accelerating the cognitive decline plan, discussing Dr. Adams's pliable assessment, mentioning specific institutions, somewhere she can be kept comfortable, and silent, Julian had said. Gasps turned to outraged shouts. People physically recoiled from Clara and Julian, disgust etched on every face, friends, colleagues, clients, turning their backs on them. Literally. The final clip, short but devastating, showed them discussing the siphoned charity funds, laughing about where they'd go on their lavish celebration trip once I was settled in care, money meant for art students, for community programs, that, the mention of the charities, that was the prearranged signal. Community programs. My lawyer Elena Vance stepped forward smoothly from the side of the room, flanked by two plainclothes police officers who had entered silently, almost unnoticed from the back hallway during the video reveal. Clara Dubois, Julian Vance, the lead officer stated calmly but firmly, his voice cutting through the shocked silence, showing his badge. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. grand larceny, trafficking in stolen goods, forgery, elder abuse, felony embezzlement, unlawful administration of a controlled substance. The list went on, precise, damning. Clara shrieked, a raw animal sound. Finally breaking, she lunged towards me, wild-eyed. "You old witch, you scheming old hag, you set us up." Julian just stood there, utterly broken, shoulders slumped, defeated, exposed under the glare of the screen and the horrified eyes of the art world. The charm evaporated, leaving only a hollow shell. The police efficiently handcuffed them. Ignoring Clara's continuing hysterics and accusations, ignoring Julian's stunned, vacant silence, reading them their rights in calm, measured tones, as they were led away, Perp walked through the stunned crowd, past the horrified gazes of the people they had desperately tried to impress, past the damning evidence of their crimes still displayed on the screen, past the beautiful, worthless forgeries that mocked their ambition. I felt, not triumph, not joy, but a profound, grim, chilling satisfaction. Justice, served cold, clinical and devastatingly public. The house was finally quiet again, cleansed. The fallout was immediate, spectacular, and absolute. The story exploded. International headlines, art journals, financial newspapers, major news networks, gossip columns, online forums, everywhere. Art world betrayal shocks elite. Collector exposes niece's audacious criminal scheme in sting operation. High society forgery ring dismantled. Elder abuse and embezzlement charges for disgraced art dealer and niece, Clara and Julian's names. Their faces became synonymous with deceit, treachery, greed, the ultimate art world scandal. They were professionally ruined, instantly, comprehensively, blacklisted everywhere. Pariahs, their associates distanced themselves immediately, publicly, vehemently. Their trial was swift, mercifully so for me. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable. The hidden camera footage, Bernard's meticulous forensic reports, complex financial records unearthed by my lawyer's team, testimony from Dr. Ramirez, the arresting officers, even some of the duped buyers cooperated once the scale of the fraud was clear. Their defense attempts were laughable, pathetic, blaming each other, claiming I was confused, manipulative. It didn't work. Significant prison sentences for both, long sentences, stripped of every stolen asset the authorities could trace, bank accounts frozen, properties seized. Restitution ordered, though I knew I'd never recover the full financial loss, let alone the emotional cost. Recovering the art has been a slower, more painful process. Bernard and law enforcement agencies worked tirelessly. Interpol, FBI art crime team, some pieces were traced, intercepted, returned, damaged sometimes by careless handling. But home, the Renoir, the Degas, several smaller works. The Klimt, sadly, remains missing. Vanished into the black market's shadowy depths, likely forever, a permanent scar, a constant reminder, Robert's favourite, but my name, my reputation, was cleared, vindicated, enhanced even, strangely. The art world saw not a frail, declining victim, but a fighter, a strategist, someone who used her knowledge, her passion, her righteous anger, to expose the rot within its gilded cage. I received letters, calls, messages of support from around the globe. From people I hadn't heard from in years, colleagues, former students, even rival collectors, expressing admiration for my courage, my resilience. My home is mine again, truly mine, quieter now. The silence feels different, clean, peaceful, filled only with authentic beauty. The pieces that remain, and the echoes of justice delivered. The forgeries were documented, then destroyed, burned, cathartically. I established the Agnes Foundation. Using some of my remaining resources and the recovered funds, dedicated to educating artists, collectors and institutions, promoting ethical practices, researching forgery detection techniques, providing resources and support for victims of art fraud and elder exploitation. Fighting back, my ordeal, the darkest chapter of my life, became my new purpose, my final legacy. Am I the same? No, how could I be? I am warier, yes, far more cautious. The cost of misplaced trust was brutally, devastatingly high. That scar remains, deep, tender, but I am not broken. Far from it, I am stronger. Forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by the ice of resolve, they tried to steal my legacy, erase my identity, declare me irrelevant, incompetent, disposable. Instead, they revealed a strength I didn't know I possessed, a capacity for strategic warfare I never imagined. They ignited a fury that brought them down. Utterly, deservedly, and in the ashes I rebuilt not just my collection or what remains of it, but myself on my own terms, stronger, sharper, and undeniably, authentically, me. Wow, just wow, take a breath after that. Agnes's story, the sheer calculated audacity of the betrayal, the intimate violation, coupled with the cold, strategic brilliance of her response, using her encyclopedic knowledge, her lifetime of connections, her reputation, turning their own world, the art world, its hierarchies, its values, its public stage, against them, weaponizing it, the public exposure, the perfectly timed reveals, the hidden cameras. The forensic evidence presented like a masterclass in meticulous destruction. It's chilling, undeniably, but so incredibly effective, so justified. She didn't just seek justice through the courts. She orchestrated their complete social and professional annihilation, a public unmasking, a calculated act of war, fought with intellect, precision, and ice-cold rage, born of profound hurt. Was it too harsh? Or exactly what they deserved for such profound cruelty, exploitation, and greed, for laughing about drugging her and putting her away? What do you think? Seriously, I need to know. Let me know in the comments below. What would you have done in Agnes's position? Could you be that strategic, that ruthless, when pushed to the absolute limit by those you loved? Where is the line? Stories like Agnes's, they are extreme, yes, thankfully, but the themes, betrayal by the trusted, the insidious nature of gaslighting, the fight for dignity, autonomy, and identity, especially as we age, they resonate deeply. They need to be heard as a warning, a cautionary tale about predators hiding in plain sight, and as an inspiration, proof that resilience can wear many faces. Sometimes it's quiet endurance, sometimes it's righteous fury, sometimes it's a mask of cold, strategic fury. If this story moved you, or shocked you, or angered you, please subscribe for more unbelievable true accounts. These stories matter. Share this video. Perhaps someone you know needs to hear about finding strength in the face of overwhelming betrayal, or needs to be reminded that older doesn't mean weaker. Hit that like button. It really helps stories like this reach more people. Helps Agnes's warning be heard. Thank you for listening, really listening, to Agnes's voice. I'm Victoria, and I'll be back soon with another story you won't forget. Stay safe out there, and trust wisely.